Screams echo across the cavern walls as a valiant knight charges ahead towards the source of the anguish. His armor clatters loudly, alerting a group of fire newts to his front. He welcomes their attention like an old friend and readies his behemoth tower shield, placing it between himself and the fire newt scouts. As the moving bastion is pelted with a volley of arrows, he feels his shield make contact with something soft. He turns sharply into one of the cavern walls and slams it with full force. The sickening crunch of broken bones and dripping viscera from under the shield confirms his kill, and he turns his ire towards the remaining scouts. Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Today we are going to be going over a custom class known as the Vanguard, which was designed by Taron Pounds, otherwise known as Indestructiboy, who also has their own video posted on their YouTube channel about this class if you wish to check that out. In said video, he mentions that he wanted to see what it would be like to design a class that was entirely focused around defense and see how he could get that to work similar to how a tank works in a video game, but get that to carry over and function in Dungeons & Dragons. And thusly, the Vanguard was born, a class that's able to take the aggro away from foes to protect your allies and soak up lots of damage. But with that being said, while you do have the option to wield weapons in combat, it is not going to be the most effective way to play this class. Instead, thanks to a feature which we will get into later in the video, you have the ability to wield two shields at the same time, gaining the benefits of one and half the benefits of the other, which would normally otherwise not give you any benefits at all by having the extra shield. Or, you can wield what is known as a tower shield, which is a new type of shield that was introduced in this class document, which we will also be covering later. But unfortunately, wielding a shield is not going to be enough on its own to protect your allies, which is where the ready and shove action come in handy. These two actions are the bread and butter of this class. In situations where you would usually make an attack, you'll want to shove the enemy instead. But if no opportunity presents itself to shove an enemy on your turn, you can ready an action in order to respond to an enemy on their turn. The Vanguard's abilities are just as much about control as they are defense, and in fact, you'll mainly be defending your allies through the control of the battlefield. Shoving the right enemies at the right times to keep them from being able to rush over and attack your allies or strategically retreat will give your team the edge it needs to endure a fight and come out on the other side unscathed. Now, before I begin going over the Vanguard's features, I would recommend watching my video on the ready action to gain a better understanding of it since it plays such a heavy role with this class. It's also just a good watch if you're newer to DnD, or even just a refresher on the rules behind it if you're already somewhat of a veteran, because most players I know never make use of the ready action, and it easily could have saved a few parties I've known from a TPK. As far as hit points go, as the Vanguard should, they have a very hefty pool of hit points, using a d12 hit die, starting with a number of hit points equal to 12 plus your Constitution modifier, and gaining either 1d12 plus your Constitution modifier, or 7 plus your Constitution modifier on average of number of hit points per Vanguard level as you level up. For proficiencies, you are proficient in all armor and shields, all simple melee weapons, you have no tool proficiencies. For saving throws, you are proficient with strength and constitution saves, and last but not least for skills, you automatically gain proficiency in athletics, and then get to choose one skill from among history, intimidation, perception, religion, and survival. And now the part you've all been waiting for, the features. At first level, you gain two features, one of them being Shield Bearer. You prioritize protection above all else, specializing in defensive combat with shields. Dual shields. You can benefit from wielding two shields at the same time. If you do, the AC bonus of the second shield is halved, and you can use a bonus action on your turn to try and shove a creature. Tower shield. While you are wielding a tower shield, you can use a bonus action to take on a wide stance, providing half cover to creatures of your choice within 5 feet of you until the start of your next turn, or until you doff the shield. Now, I know most of you are probably wondering what a tower shield is, but if you've ever played Dark Souls 3, you've actually already seen one of these. A tower shield is pretty much half of that. You don't get the full double doors, but you get at least one door. To wield such a mighty shield, you have to have a strength score of at least 15, and you have to use two hands. You also, of course, get disadvantage on stealth checks while wielding it. However, you get a +2 to AC because the tower shield is a shield, and it's like, well, that's the normal buff that a regular shield gets. Why would I go through all the disadvantages and hurdles of wielding a tower shield when I could just wield a regular one? Well, tower shields also have a special property that grants you half cover as long as you are wielding it. And if you know how half cover works, that means that while you are under half cover, you gain an additional +2 to your armor class and another +2 to dexterity saving throws, essentially making your AC +4 while wielding a tower shield. And with the shield bearer feat that I mentioned earlier, you can use a bonus action to turn that tower shield sideways, taking on a wide stance and extending that half cover to any creatures of your choice within 5 feet of you. The next feat that you get at first level is called Guard. In battle, you stand guard over your allies, ready to be their Aegis. If you take the ready action to move up to your speed, you can try to shove a creature during the same reaction. Additionally, if a creature provokes an opportunity attack from you, you can try and shove it instead. This feature is incredibly useful for letting this class maximize their action economy. Because without this feature, counterplay for this class would be incredibly simple. Let's say on your turn you go to shove an enemy that you think is going to attack one of your allies on your turn. They get pushed to the ground, knocked prone, so they're only going to have half as much movement on their next turn. And let's say thanks to that, they aren't actually able to reach that ally and attack them. But the DM can just simply have them stand up, go attack a closer ally, make their own readied action, do anything else, and have another enemy just simply run up and attack the ally. And at the end of the day, you weren't able to do your job and protect that friend from taking damage. But thankfully with this feature, on your turn you can state that you're going to ready an action, readying yourself to move up to your speed whenever an enemy, for example, moves within 20 feet of one of your allies. Then, if an enemy comes within that range of one of your allies and you have enough speed to reach them, you can run up to them and then shove them as part of that same action. And if you succeed with it, they're going to be knocked to the floor and hopefully won't have enough movement to actually reach that ally. At second level, you gain the feat Rampant Charge. You can throw Caution to the Wind to break enemy lines. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line, you can choose to charge in a straight line for the rest of the move. If you move into the space of another creature during the charge, you can try to shove it. If you successfully shove it, you can push it ahead of you for the rest of your move. The charge ends early if you lose a contest to shove a creature, or if you push a creature into a structure. Any creatures pushed into a structure take bludgeoning damage equal to 2d6 plus your strength modifier. I don't think I even need to explain some of the fun ways you can use this one. But of course it is still a very useful ability for many reasons. You can push an enemy away from an ally, which it's worth noting that this will not trigger an opportunity attack for any creature that you push said enemy past. You can also break the enemy's formation, reaching the back lines in order to hinder spellcasters and ranged enemies, and you can also of course charge said enemies forwards so that your damage dealers can deal with them. You also gain the Fortitude feat at second level, which gives you 3 very useful traits. While wearing heavy armor, you are a walking bastion of unbreakable poise, granting you the following benefits. Any bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage you take is reduced by an amount equal to half your Vanguard level. You count as being one size larger, to a minimum of size large, when making strength-based ability checks and strength saving throws. You also have advantage on strength checks you make against medium and smaller targets. And last but not least, if you succeed in shoving a target that is your size or smaller, you can push it up to 10 feet away from you, or push the target up to 5 feet away from you and knock it prone. Now that first ability is really nice, allowing you to soak up more damage as you should be able to as a tank, but it's the next 2 abilities that follow in this feature that I think are easily the most impactful. Being able to count yourself as a large-sized creature when it comes to strength-based ability checks means that you can actually shove creatures that are large or huge-sized. Gaining advantage on strength checks you make against medium and smaller targets keeps your ability to protect your allies consistent so you don't whiff as often on your attempts to shove the enemy. And that last little ability that Fortitude gives you just adds some nice versatility to the shove action, giving you some more options of what you can do on your turn should the situation call for it. At third level, you finally gain the ability to specialize into your subclass, known as a Vanguardian Mandate, and I will be giving a summary of each of these Vanguardian mandates at the end of the video. You also gain the feat Lockdown, giving you yet another way that you can utilize your shove action. If you successfully shove a creature, you can choose to reduce its speed to 0 until the end of the current turn, rather than pushing it or knocking it prone. Which, when coupled with the guard feat, will pretty much guarantee that the enemy that you're targeting with your ready action is not going to be able to make it to one of your allies and attack them. At 4th level, you gain your standard ability score improvement or your choice of feat if you use that rule, which I don't know anyone who doesn't. But unlike most other classes, you also gain another feat at 4th level, this one titled Bolstered Vitality. When you finish a long rest, you regain all of your hit dice instead of half. Very nice little feature to have, lets you play into the role of a tank a little bit more by expending some more hit dice during a short rest after a combat where you've taken a bunch of damage just to replenish that, get your hit points back up, and soak up more damage on later combats. Alright, we've got 10 main features left to cover, so I'm going to run through these back to back and give a summary of them so this doesn't turn into a 30-minute video. At 5th level, you gain Ever Ready. While not incapacitated or surprised, no effect can prevent you from using your reaction, which you now have 2 that you can use per round but only 1 per turn, and that extra reaction can be used to move up to your speed as the readied action and potentially shove a creature. At 7th level, you gain Stalwart Vigilance, giving you advantage on initiative rolls and a +5 bonus to your passive perception while not blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. At 9th level, you gain 2 features, one of which being Fearless, giving you advantage on saving throws to avoid or end being frightened, and also keeping you from being frightened by any creature whose strength score is lower than yours, which I really like the flavor on that. And the second feature you gain at 9th level is called Tireless, letting you use an action to give yourself a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your Constitution modifier, and you can use this action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Additionally, when you finish a short rest, if you have any exhaustion, that decreases by 1 level. At 11th level, you gain Muster for Battle, which lets you take a free ready action whenever you roll for initiative. At 13th level, you gain the feature Power Through, which lets you use your Constitution modifier in place of your Dexterity modifier for dexterity saving throws, as long as you aren't incapacitated. Additionally, whenever you succeed on any saving throw against an effect that would deal damage, that damage is halved instead. At 15th level, you gain the feature Behemoth Might, which is essentially an upgrade to the earlier feature Fortitude, letting you count as 2 sizes larger when making strength-based ability checks and strength saving throws, and also giving you advantage on strength checks you make against large and smaller targets. Additionally, you ignore the 2-handed property of Tower Shields, which no, having 2 tower shields at the same time does not stack the half cover, you still only have half cover from it, not full cover. At 17th level, you have Force of Will, which is basically legendary resistance but for shoving. If you try to shove a creature and lose the contest, you can just choose to shove it instead. And once you use this feature, you can't do it again until you finish a short or long rest. At 18th level, you gain Towering Colossus, increasing your Constitution score by 4 to a maximum of 24. And while your feet are firmly planted in the ground, you cannot be moved or teleported against your will by any means short of a wish spell. And finally, your capstone feature, Indestructible. While wearing heavy armor, you are immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage dealt by other creatures that would not kill you outright. Now, the creator of this class did state in his video covering the Vanguard that this feature does not prevent damage from environmental sources, such as taking fall damage or having a wall collapse on you. But it's up to you and your DM as to whether a creature using the environment to harm you, such as a monster intentionally toppling a stone pillar onto you as an attack, would count for this feature or not. Now that we've gone over all of the main features of the Vanguard, I'm going to give a quick summary of each of the subclasses, of which there are 6 options to choose from. Among these are the Ardent, a psychic subclass which projects mental barriers to block enemy attacks, uses telekinesis to push enemies back or redirect incoming projectiles, and protects its own mind and the minds of its allies from being charmed or scryed upon. The Dreadlord, a dark and wretched subclass which places a curse on its enemies, hindering their vision should they dare to look upon your allies. The Dreadlord can bolster their vitality upon cursing their opponents, and force said enemies to turn on one another, and eventually you will be able to force enemies that harm you to be pulled or teleported in front of you to answer for their transgressions. The Juggernaut, the paragon of a Vanguard, allowing you to endure many more attacks, deal more damage to enemies that you charge into objects and walls with, and obliterate any objects or structures that stand in your way. The Rime Guard, bastions of ice and snow, They can easily survive through the harshest blizzards, conjuring walls of ice and summoning a whirlwind of sleet and freezing winds to surround them as they move through the battlefield, inevitably ending in their enemies becoming restrained in ice. The Templar, a righteous subclass, blessed by the gods, allowing you to bear the pain of others, taking damage in their stead, which will allow you to grow in power as you gain in levels, basking yourself in radiant light which you can erupt to scorch all creatures surrounding you, and providing sanctuary to the allies for which you bear the pain of. And finally, the Vexator, a proud and braggadocious subclass with Charm to spare, which throws taunts to the enemy to draw their ire, clouding their focus and disadvantaging them from attacking anyone other than yourself. If you want to try out the Vanguard for yourself, you can get the full document on Taron Pounds' website, which I have linked below in the description. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope I was able to inspire you to try something new for your future D&D campaigns, and I'll catch you all in the next one.